James, do you want to say something about trees to start with? Would that be helpful? It's up to you.
I'm quite interested in the things on the conservation side of things, so don't rush it. But yeah, I just have to
Okay.
take it. Thanks.
And we're presumably too late in the season, aren't we, to do anything more tree-wise?
Unless for emergency work, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just looking to see if there's anything from Karen, but pass. You're up to you, Charles. I would imagine people would probably be here by now, wouldn't they?
Should we start? Yes, we're a little bit early. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming, members of the public in particular. I think we have no orders of absence. No. Would anybody like to say anything? I know we're scheduled to do the playground in a minute. Is there anybody else who'd like to say anything? Yes, James.
Just to point on sort of highways issues, really, but not sort of nothing that needs to be made a decision on in a hurry. I just wondered if it's worth having an item, agenda item at some future meeting to look at the sort of management of Bells Lane from a highways point of view, and possibly Hawstead Lane to sit with me as well, because in light of the impacts on the green really, but looking at the longer term issues, because more people are generally driving over the green, and just seeing whether it's worth having a meeting with highways, but also inviting their ecologists from the county council, of which there are a few, because obviously highways are part of the county council. County council has a legal duty as a public body towards biodiversity, and actually through two laws they have a legal duty to consider biodiversity in all their works and also to promote it. So the fact that people are driving all over the verges, and they're protected verges at Hawstead Lane, up here on the way to Lawshore, and also on the way to Noton, which all being impacted.
And up Wexford Road as well. It's horrendous.
Yeah, it's all horrendous. So just really to sort of think it through whether the parish council thinks that's a good idea, because they should have a strategy of how they're going to promote biodiversity. Under the Environment Act, they have a legal duty to promote it, and they should have a strategy of how they're going to actually promote it.
I think that's coming up. I was speaking to landscape recovery people yesterday morning, something, and they're about to consult, and then they're on track to do the legal requirement. So yes, but I agree that there is something that we need to do.
I think just from the specific instance here, really, I mean they've considered triplocytes and other grasslands and that sort of thing elsewhere, but there's a huge issue with verges, and I know that the Suffolk Biological Record Centre almost consider that species-rich grassland that's on our verges is almost a lost cause, but that is where our species-rich grassland is generally in West Suffolk.
Yeah.
And actually, if we're going to save any biodiversity, we've got to do something about it. And the county council need to address it rather than just saying that we can't do anything.
Yes, I agree. And the offer, therefore, to reseed the verges needs to be taken. We need to think about whether that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, and I think just the management of how you're going to manage verges working with their partners, including the Biological Record Centre, which is also funded by the County Council and other bodies, to actually have a policy of verges being for people and for wildlife, because you know you can't walk down the road and jog on a verge and guarantee that you're going to be safe off the road at the moment, and that is only going to get worse as people, you know, treat verges as part of the road and just to be rally driven over. So I think you know it's going to be a difficult one to call, and I think you know public behaviour is getting worse, but unless you actually try and do something about it, it's a bit like the litter situation as well. You know, if they had a policy for verges for people rather than cars, that would help.
I agree that it's a question of motorist education, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there is the sort of almost depression in public bodies that public behaviour is getting worse, hence you know bodies not turning up to public meetings and that sort of thing. And I understand that, but I don't think you know that it is a lost cause. And I think there is, you know.
Okay, thank you for raising it. I will bring that up with landscape recovery people.
I can happily put some legal stuff in writing to the Parish Council if that helps.
Great, thank you. Okay, anybody else on the floor? Okay, we have no County Council or West Suffolk Council or police. So Joe, would you like to give us a presentation on the playground, please?
Yep, my pleasure. I will stand.
Yes, do.
Just make it a bit more efficient, and I'm off the camera, so it's even better. I didn't do my hair. You've all received the presentation, so it's just much more a case of just running through it with you. Any questions you have, obviously address those as well. For those who haven't seen it, obviously sitting behind me, apologies for having my back to you as I do this. But it is a case of obviously looking out there. We've had the playground in place for over 20 years, but the equipment hasn't been changed in that time. Obviously we have the monthly and annual review from the County Council, look at the safety of it, etc. They are seeing obviously the ageing of the equipment. There's also more and more entrapment issues with regards to where the equipment's actually splitting, so therefore raising risks for the children's hands. There's some caps and so forth starting to go as well. And around the bases where it has been sunk into the ground, there is obviously starting to rot, and some parts are worse than others. The obvious part we have had, certainly last winter and relatively recently with some of the heavy rains, is that it does flood in some of the areas where it's troughed out. That is in part down to compaction, down to the actual material that's there, and also the level of the land. I know we've spoken about trying to get solutions for drainage, etc., so I'm not going to go over that, but what we have done is obviously looked at what can we do to try and resolve this issue. And the presentation basically goes through what the plan is for you, which is pretty much to have a bit of a revamp, not to turn it into Alton Towers by any stretch, but keep it within the budget that we're very consciously sort of mindful of. And the subcommittee of the Hawstead Community Council, nicknamed by Ali as the Dirty Diggers, have got a sort of a phase 1 works proposal which is due to start on the week commencing the 14th of April. We envisage it taking no more than a week to 10 days because we were very strict with them to say, look, we've got the first wedding in the hall on the, I think it's the 3rd of May. Obviously we want it open and no workmen and sort of detritus out there when the wedding goes on, because that'll obviously spoil it and potentially put bad sort of publication into publicity for us. So the actions and what's going to happen, so we're going to look to dig out all the bark and potentially some of the compacted earth underneath, remove and disassemble all the swings and apparatus, so the central item and the 2 swing sets. Lift out the cabin log and see can we save that. Although having had recent looks at it, it's not looking too clever, but until we lift it we won't know for certain if it wants to fall apart on us as soon as we try and move it. Install a new stone base, so a type 1 stone base. That's going to be over a minimum of 50mm deep. It's likely to be a bit deeper, which should hopefully aid that drainage situation for us. And then will also allow us to raise the ground level so that the playbark area is level with the grass, because as you would have seen out there, it's probably about sort of 5cm difference at this moment in time. which probably isn't a great help for us. It just gives an automatic wallow. And then install a geotextile membrane above the stone to obviously sort of discourage the weeding. Potentially going to be putting one underneath the stone as well to double up on that. And then fill the area with clay grey bark. Installing new equipment with new play equipment and new items, potential of a stainless steel ground fixing, well, not a potential, sorry, a stainless steel ground fixing for each leg of the new equipment to therefore extend its longevity and also help us keep to those 20-year warranties from the supplier that we're going with. You would have seen the picture of the equipment we're setting and putting in phase 1. So a new central sort of 2-tower adventure area with a slide on there, a bit of climbing frame and rope walk, etc. And then the swing set will be a nest set, so it'll be a toddler swing, so a basket swing, a standard flat swing for juniors, and then an inclusive sort of large basket swing for families or those with capacity to, not able to set a standard swing and use that. And we have been told, much to the joy of some members of the committee, that it can take up to 2 tonnes. So I think there's a number of the HCC that were looking to jump on it and have a play as well. So I think we'll probably find 1 or 2 of those looking to sort of christen that as we go. In regards to our preferred supplier, so we did go off, we've got 4 quotes from different equipment providers and also an independent fitter who could get discount on various pieces. We're actually going to go with Playdale, Playdale being the equipment producers for when it was fitted by villagers last time out. So we know that the quality equipment is there. We know that they're national, so we've got that sort of comeback if anything's wrong. We also know that we can sort of trust them to do the whole of the work, and they've got an expertise in doing it, which is obviously essential for us for insurance purposes, also longevity of the equipment while it's there. And as I say, there is a 20-year guarantee on the woodwork and warranties as well. So by putting that in, we've got that comeback should anything go, and all being equal, we should get another 20+ years out of that equipment as well when it gets put in. The playground area itself, there's no change clearly to the expanse. We're looking to put the equipment in the parked area as it's marked at the moment. Obviously, this has been revamped and updated. And we will be keeping, for this moment in time, the adventure trail around the outside of the grass area, but that will be considered in future phases. As I say, that's what we're doing for now, based on the budget that we have and what's available to us, and trying to use that money as wisely as possible. Future phases, and what we're looking to do, hopefully within the next 1 to 2 years, where possible, is to replace the log cabin with a new one. Look at installing the new perimeter fence, because obviously that's not looking at its greatest. So looking at replacing that and putting in 2 new gates, which will be wider for pushchairs and wheelchairs, increasing the accessibility, making things better from that respect. Add further equipment in there, so a bit more sort of interest and play there, and there's some pictures of what we're looking at doing. One being sort of steel loudspeaker systems. It whisper in one end, it comes out quite a loud voice at the other, so the kids will probably quite enjoy that. Or your other halves may sort of use it to call you in for dinner if you've been out to play, John. And then some sort of activity boards, be it like noughts and crosses or ball mazes or something like that. A potential looking at the gravity bowl, which is quite fun by all accounts. Probably make me feel sick. And also look at consideration for an all-weather surface out there as well, so it becomes even more usable in sort of the more inclement weather, which we are so beautifully blessed with in this country. And as I say, it's just a case of looking at various things, and as I say, that adventure trail will be looked at in the future, because again, that's starting to age as well, because of its height and sort of usage. It's not as much of a drama for us on that front. Sort of points of note, we are, as I say, going for the play bark. Now that's not our preferred surface, but due to budgetary constraints, it's the only way forward for now. We would have preferred, if we could have, to go with something a bit more all-weather to work it through, but the costs were just going to mount up to a silly level from there. What it does mean, and we are having to obviously put money aside on a regular basis for this, is that there will be maintenance, regular maintenance on that. So looking at, which is something we have been lapsed on, so we obviously need to learn that lesson, looking at grass encroachment into the bark, looking at weeding, make sure that's there. But then we have also been advised that at least on an annual basis that needs to be turned, if not rotivated, and then topped up. And talk to people again, the conservative estimate, that will mean around about 10% bark having to be replaced per year, with the labour and the work that would take, and obviously the regular sort of weeding, etc. At the very least, probably a quarterly basis, I would have thought, just to make sure we keep on top of that. We've estimated that could be around about £1,500 a year. Although that's obviously based on prices now, that could increase depending on what prices for equipment, prices for bark, etc. will be. And as I say, just that sort of future work on the resurfacing at some point. But by putting the metal feeting and the Type 1 underneath, we have got that sort of future proofing to be able to make those adjustments as we go through. Did go through the full costings rather than go through each item on the list. It did come out just shy of £42,000. And that was after a discount, so that obviously does us a favour for something, but not including VAT of 20%, so the number there is quite painful and hurts a bit. So we are looking at trying to reduce some of those costs. So we've engaged with Rupert, and he has kindly said he will offer some help in going through with things, so looking at removal and disposal of the existing wood chip and any compacted earth that will be needed to be excavated. Rupert said that he would be happy to supply the machinery for gratis. We will have to pay for his guys to do the labour for it, but then he would get rid of the wood chip and earth around his land, so that's fantastic. He also said about sort of uplifting the cabin to try and get that out of there to save time and money on Playdale's labour. Disposal of the old equipment, he said he'd be able to help us with that if there wasn't interest from the village or other parties to sort of take that on. I know there was someone had approached to potentially take one of the swing sets into the garden, but they'd obviously need to be making sure of the safety of that for their own children. We wouldn't want to obviously take responsibility for that. Someone else said about potentially taking it and making some horse jumps out of it, but again, it all depends on their availability to come down and match in with when we're doing the work. So otherwise, Rupert said we will lose that for us. And there is potential of being able to recycle the metal chains and recoup some money there as well. By doing those, so by selling on the equipment for use in whatever way and the metal chains, we could raise around about £500 to £1,000, we believe, which will obviously help. They've got on their welfare cost, which obviously going to be outdoor toilets, so we've said that we would come down and open the village hall for them to save that cost, and also the delights of not seeing a portaloo outside by the playground. Container costs, we will be looking at negating that by Suzanne has kindly said that she can have the stuff stored at hers in a horse box, or even if it's only here for a couple of days and it's not going to conflict with someone using the hall, the potential it's even in the hall for easy access for them as well. And finally, just disposal of the packaging and pallets and general rubbish. We said we would come across on a daily basis and do that for them. For a member of the Hawstead Community Council to nip over to the tip and get rid of that. It's hardly going to be a problem. The amount of times I'm going up there at the moment, garden rubbish. I've actually got my own parking space, so that's fine. So that's all in. We believe we can be saving in the region of £7,700. And that's not including the VAT that would have been on top of that as well, so closer towards sort of £10,000 once you start adding that into there. I did just put down the additional equipment costs, just to give you an idea of what they were, so you can see where we're looking at sort of trying to raise some money, which will be obviously through future events, through approaching some of the corporates in and around Bury, so looking at British Sugar, Green King, and potentially the Denny Brothers to see if there's any sort of financial assistance they can give from charitable sort of donations through the year. So I know certainly working in asset management, there's always that chance that money's passed over. It's a good little whiz for them for a bit of corporate do-good, but also a tax swindle as well, so everyone like that. So hopefully we'll be able to get some money from somewhere on that side. And we will look at applying for grants as well, which is the ask for the PC that if we do want to go for some grants that you would assist us in that, because if it came through the parish council, there is that 20% VAT reclaim, which therefore makes any grants given to us that bit more valuable, and then you can gift us the equipment into the playground. But obviously that's for you to make a decision at some point, rather than necessarily doing it right now. And that is that from me. Any questions at all?
Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yep.
You said that phase 1 starting on 14th of April.
Yes.
So then, how long does it like to be before you actually start doing the rest of it then? I mean, will the play area be like empty for you?
No, we would look at sort of Ruben coming in as close to that day. Obviously, we need to work around him, his availability, obviously whatever drilling, planting, whatever needs to be done with his land, that's clearly going to take precedence there. But hopefully we'll be able to come and do the work, hopefully no more than 2 weeks ahead, ideally 1 week ahead. And we will obviously Harris fence around the area, as well there'll be nothing in there and just plain bark there. We prefer to obviously health and safety element, just keep that secure for that period. When play day will come in on the week commencing the 14th, we believe at the moment it would be the 14th they would start. They will be installing and fitting everything within that 7 to 10 day period, and it will be open from that point. And then we've sort of notionally discussed having a grand opening or official opening of the playgrounds at the plant fair.
So for phase 1, including the first bit of play, you've already got the money for all that, haven't you?
We have, yeah.
Right.
That was so the majority of that, I think it was just over £32,000, or around £32,000 were COVID loans that have been sitting there. The remainder of the money is obviously money that's been earned through weddings, etc. That's sat there, but still leaving us, I think, as a buffer from what Suzanne was saying. Was it towards 20,000? Yeah, towards £20,000 for sort of continuation of other elements. So we're not draining the funds completely.
Sounds like you've done a very good job there, Joe. From the rest
Well,
of the community. Well, whole community.
Yeah. Not all me. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've shown my 2 daughters at home all the pictures,
Yep.
so you've got 2 big fans there.
Happy days.
I think the plan looks really good, and yeah, credit to the community council for putting the proposal together.
Thank you very much.
John,
Yes, Jim.
can you confirm to me, because I've
Yes,
must have written it down wrong, the depth of the type 1 stone base?
We've been told it's for a minimum 50 mil.
50 must 2 inches.
However, Rupert, when he looked at it, was saying his view would be to do 200 mil.
Yeah,
We've checked back with Playdale, and they've said, yeah, it's not a problem to go deeper. It's the 50 mil is a minimum for other sort of, because that would then have the membrane and then 250 to 300 mil of bark on top.
I was thinking of the drainage, because obviously
Yes.
the problem's been the flood,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
So the
which
deeper
is
you
where,
have that,
this is where Rupert was saying if we went to 200 mil, you've got greater sort of ability for drainage and that should aid it that bit more.
it's worth doing, isn't it? What you
Yeah.
can. The play grade bark is about 6.5k.
It is if we're getting it from Playdale, yes.
Do you know what, you will know, I'm sure, what then the all-weather grade surface is? Is that
For
5
doing,
times as much?
well, the price we got given was to change the whole of that area, and that was towards £14,000. So over a short period,
but
that
the
would be
maintenance
more
of that is going to be less. If you're
It
looking at
is.
1,700, what it was a year, just to look at the bark,
yeah,
now you'll be up to that in 5 years.
not long at all. Not long at all. But the problem is, Jim, we haven't got that much to do that all-weather. Was it tiger mulch? Was what they were talking. To do that would mean that we wouldn't have been able to afford equipment. So we'd have a lovely new sort of area, play trail, but nothing in there to play on. So you know that we had to make that compromise at that point. But we would aim to do that later on down the line. And certainly if we can get grants or so forth to help.
The last question is a bit more prosaic.
Go on then, sir.
You spoke about actually having the cutting out the welfare facility, toilets for the guys outside, and opening up the hall for them to use this.
Yeah.
Are you allowing cleaning costs for that?
We will.
Because if it's rubbish weather while we're doing it, something's going to be out here. That's going to be.
It is something we are going to have to be mindful of, and we have already sort of thought about, right, have we got some sort of matting or some sort of pub floor covering that we can put down. Thankfully, having had to work at the house, there's a nice roll of it in the garage at the moment, which they left behind. So that can be used. So we are mindful of that, Jim, and we obviously need to be on top of it because if there are the users, we don't want to leave it in a shoddy state.
Yeah, looks good to me. I think it's a great idea.
Is there not an opportunity for volunteers to do the renovating of the?
If we can do that, but I think in a lot of ways we don't want to necessarily say, well, we'll always get volunteers to do it, because that may not always be the case. So yes, that would be the ideal. That whether John the Wombles can
Are you suggesting I'm getting on a bit?
No, not at all. Not at all. You're just the leader of the Jammy Dodgers. And so whether that could be something that Jammy Dodgers could be organised for, or our HCC.
Toddlers are using it.
Exactly. So yeah, we would put that out, but equally, to say that we would only be relying on volunteers, I think would be with the best will in the world, would probably be naive. I think it's better that we do plan for the potential of needing to bring a contractor in to do it. But certainly, just on the bath alone, 10% of that it could be, if prices move around, that could be towards sort of £800-900. Just on that
Plan
alone.
for the worst, but with the intention of the best.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well done, Joe.
Yeah, no, well done. So I mean, I think that the parish council should do as much as we can to help. There's only a joint grant application and the VAT. Well, there's a VAT implication, isn't there?
I think we'd have to sort of feel our way a bit as we go along.
Yeah.
I think the council can, in principle, apply for grants and then, gift the grant for the purpose and recover or buy the equipment with that grant and then be able to get its VAT back. What it can't do is use your £32,000
Oh no.
to buy, and then that would be a
which
figure.
I know we did kind of looked at that idea, but because of how it's structured, it would potentially be sort of working down the same lines as Jimmy Carr's accountant. So best we don't play with the taxman in that regard and say white to the white. But it played a little surprise, but then it's a case of, because it has been leased to us, it's not council land which can go around that route. We understand that we'd be dicing with the taxman, and
I think on a more minor scale, the council helped HCC with a bench, didn't it, recently, and it bought the.
Yep.
I think it got a grant probably from Carol and bought the bench and then gifted the thing. And got the VAT back, and that seemed to be okay.
And that's something you can do. So I'm the district county council here. So so you can apply to me for. I've got quite a bit in my district locality that really needs allocating. So that's one thing I was going to say is you need to get on that very, very soon.
Give us a blank check. We'll start writing the numbers.
I don't have one of those, but what you need to email me at karen.soons@westsuffolk.gov.uk.
And
did you? I'll have a look. Are you sure you've got it correct? You didn't my emails while we're here. Which email address would it come from?
Is there a maximum amount, Karen, for your locality for one parish?
No, it's really what I feel like allocating. I'm up against having to allocate it all before I lose it. And I think I might either have 2,500 or 3,500 in West Suffolk. So
is that
I would
before the
prefer to
end
give
of
it
the
to
month?
Sorry?
Is that before the end of the month?
Yes.
So
You really,
like now.
let me just, it needs to be done very quickly. Sorry, will it come from which email address? Treasurer.
Otherwise we can always sort of drop the line tomorrow, Karen.
It's not coming up.
Obviously, if you were going to allocate any money, we would rather it go to the parish council.
Yes, so the parish council, you then need to say who's applying for it. And give those details. Can you email me again? Just do that, because obviously it's not searching, which is very odd. And I am pretty up on my emails. The last one I haven't read is 10 o'clock today. So
No problem.
unless it's gone into my junk, which I can't check at the moment. There is possibly county money. I think I'm mostly allocated with the county. It would feel wrong to give you both West Suffolk and county money within the same tax year, but that's not to say that if I gave you West Suffolk money this year, I might be able to give you county money next year.
Yeah.
I have to be very careful. I represent 21 villages, 16 parish councils on the county, so I do, but I don't think I've given you money from county for quite a long time.
Not for a long time.
No, and I don't think I've ever given you money from West Suffolk. So I could, you know, with the best will in the world, to allocate you maybe 2,000 from West Suffolk and maybe potentially 1,000 from the next year's county.
Yeah.
If that's all right.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly help.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, because I don't have the figures of what I've spent.
No, of course.
So you don't hold me to that, but that's my feeling.
No, that's fine. Noted down.
Yeah.
So it's 15,000 for this year. So we can get the new service dungeon.
Good man.
Marvellous.
And some toilets.
Thank you. There you go.
And that's obviously you're the community council,
Yes.
and it's going on this land here.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned, I don't know who, about Hopkins Homes and Section 106 money.
Yes.
I don't know whether we get anywhere with that. My initial thought was that we need to make sure Hopkins Homes money goes to highways repair.
Yep.
But thinking more about it, I'm thinking actually anything we could get out of Hopkins Homes as a village would be a good thing. It seems all their 106 money is going north, nothing's coming south, so I think that's worth pursuing as well.
Yeah.
If, you know, and they're saying they're doing stuff for the community, well, they get some brownie points, wouldn't they, if they put some money towards the children's playground.
It would certainly make a bit more of a publicity.
Yeah, I think it's worth pursuing. I don't know what other people think.
Yeah.
It will be pursued.
And now is the time to get what you can out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so moving on then. Thank you very much. That was great. And thank you again from the council for reconsidering the drainage. I think this will be
Through the whole process, it was a case of working with you. We, in essence, we're the leasee, so to work with you is better than to sort of butt heads and go against.
excellent. Thank you very much. Cam, next time, give your report.
Yeah, so I've sent that to you yesterday with the date
Yes.
on. Yeah, you got
Yes.
that. I wasn't going to say too much about that. I was really going to sort of have a chat with you about how you felt about the road closures, or there's anything you want to. I've been fielding probably about 14 emails a day, as you can imagine, from lots of parishes and residents on that. I'm fairly up to date. I think there might be one I haven't answered of yours recently on that, but hopefully you're getting the responses from highways. Do you feel
They're mostly cut and pasted.
they are, and I'm sorry for
yeah.
that. You know, making a fuss is all I'm saying to great parishes, is just keep making a fuss.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
take it personally.
No, of course, nothing's ever personal.
Yeah, so, you know, you just need to make a fuss.
Yeah. So do we know, we haven't heard it back, we don't know whether they've made this decision about the delaying the relief road?
I haven't heard anything.
Because I think we should be able to use that as some sort of a bargaining chip, you know, because I think the majority of people think that the relief road should have been built before. They then, on the planning, they've got it to so many houses, and now they're trying to
Push it back
see
again.
it through with a,
Yeah.
was it a non-material?
And is that the email I haven't answered?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just quite tricky because I know that we revised early on with regards to using the reporting tool for issues and things that come up during the whole process. But we've had a number of work orders that have already been rejected as they're not considered part of the highway or
Yes, so the
deep
thing,
enough, big enough, or the signs being at enough of an angle
yeah.
on the
I mean,
end.
what I will say, don't let that put you off reporting it, because what the officers have said in that meeting that you were at, on the online meeting with Hopkins and Highways, is that there will be an audit. So relentlessly hammer that reporting tool. Even if they reject it, doesn't matter, it will still be recorded. So they'll go back and do an audit of what damage has occurred. And though it may not meet the matrix for the highways team, that doesn't mean that it won't be retrospectively looked at with Hopkins Homes and things picked up.
And
So-
of course, we mustn't forget that Anglian water did a huge amount of damage
Indeed.
last year,
Yeah.
which has not been repaired, and they have just about to start the spa again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are things which could be done together.
Yeah. I mean, just keep. I know it's boring, and I know it's really time consuming, but just think that it's an investment in getting something at the end of the day. The parishes, I can't say this enough. Parishes that make the most fuss get the most. They don't get what they want. They don't get all of what they want, but generally they get something out of it. And parishes that don't make fuss, don't get anything. Sorry, Chris, if I could.
What's one of the messages we constantly get back from the Coast Council Highways is there's no money available to all these things.
Yeah.
So, do you foresee that at some point Hopkins Homes will provide money to highways to make some of these repairs
That
which
is
are going to
what-
be necessary? So that seems to be a really key point.
Yeah. So that is what they indicated. Whether they got that as a cast iron commitment, that I'm not privy to. But certainly there was enough noise in that meeting that led me to believe that was possible.
They committed to a conversation.
I think that needs really pinned down.
Yeah, the communications that came out after that suggested that it was going to be discussion around whether Hopkins Homes would do anything. My concern is that obviously all this has come about as part of the development by Hopkins Homes.
Yeah.
Yet it's most likely going to end up being taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
It's used to do all
Yeah.
the regulations after the fact.
And the only thing that Hopkins Homes were willing to commit to was a bit of soft topsoil on the side. Well, if you've destroyed the verges and you've exposed the sharp metallised edge, putting topsoil on, one wheel goes in and it swishes out.
And the very latest communication from our friends at Hopkins Homes dated yesterday says that Suffolk Highways has agreed to review the verge and pothole repairs once the roadworks have been completed. Now that doesn't sound to me at all as if Hopkins Homes are committing to absolutely anything at all.
I think it's true to say, I could be wrong, I think I'm not, if you're developing anything anywhere at any time, especially a residential development, the last thing you want to do is pay money for anything that isn't to do with selling houses. And so it's not actually in their interest to agree to pay for anything.
And that's why we need to make a fuss.
And you could argue if I was a property developer, I'd be probably exactly the same. What I wasn't sure about, Henry, you might know this, this business about delaying the relief road.
Yeah.
Is that just a factor of the fact that things have moved on since the original planning, or what has actually changed?
What they're claiming, so they're going, what is it, it's called a non-material amendment. They're saying that because of COVID, there's less traffic than was predicted in 2015.
More people are working at home, and there is the increase that was predicted in 2015 has not materialised.
Yeah, that's their reason, inverted commas,
So I
for
was
delaying.
expecting that West Suffolk Council would check those figures.
Yes, so they're saying then that the relief road, the opening, the start, the construction, the opening of the relief road was based on increases in traffic loading before COVID.
No, so what this, as I understand it, they had an agreement that they wouldn't have to build the relief road until they built X number of houses.
Yes.
They've now said, can we change it to 1.5x number of houses? And the reason they're citing is because there's less traffic than I thought there was going to be, so therefore they can build more houses.
But was that the original agreement, that the traffic level must be at this level before they build the relief road, or that they sell a certain number of houses before they build the relief road? Or was it both? Because if it's a question of building and selling a certain number of houses, then that's not changed. And so there's no difference. You either sell 200 houses or you don't. And when you do, I don't see what the difference is between, surely the relief road is to take the traffic from the housing estate and spread that around a bit. And so if you're building 200 houses, what difference does it make?
Well, I suppose,
Other traffic exits.
yeah, I mean, I'm not batting on behalf of Hopkins Homes. I suppose what they're saying is that because there's less traffic coming up the A134, therefore there doesn't have to be the relief road section. I think it just should be built before they started doing anything.
That's
Is it that was a non-material amendment?
Yes.
Does that mean anybody no? You don't answer, but whether anybody will be consulted or will it be
That's what I've been trying to find out.
be a delegated decision by West Suffolk?
I've got a nasty feeling it's behind closed doors. But
If there was a consultation, even if we weren't directly consulted, we can still put comments, and that Jim's
yes.
point is one that we could make.
If you
Well,
follow,
we've
if you follow the logic of all this, let's say more and more people work from home, so there's less and less traffic coming down the A134, they may go, I'll tell you what, we don't need to build this relief road at all, because our figures are, you
You
know,
also argue that there's so much development going on on the industrial park of Moot Hall that a lot more people will now be commuting from Sudbury to Moreton Hall. That is the route they will take.
Yeah.
And that, a lot of that development
Yeah.
has
Totally
been
spurious.
agreed to after
Totally
Hawstead Parish
spurious.
got their planning permission. So things have moved on. You can argue both ways, can't you?
Yeah. Well, so the working party's been doing some work, and this afternoon had a meeting with Nick Timothy, and Nick Timothy wants us to write to Matthew Hicks about this very subject, so perhaps you can talk about that in a little while.
Okay, I'm conscious of time. We've used a lot of time so far. Karen, is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, the only other thing that I would say is that I've had quite a lot of residents very exercised about the libraries. I don't know if you've seen not my most recent one, but the one before. The county council has decided to take the libraries back in-house and turn them into community hubs. Now, I actually think this is actually quite a good idea.
Yes.
But the devil is in the details, so it's likely that they would be just using for instance, there's no detail that I know about yet, but they could be sort of some social care hubs, maybe potentially linked with children's centres or something medical. They could really be community spaces, not just libraries. And of course, the libraries have the mobile library service, so they could be the eyes and the ears of going out. But it's fleshing that out. But quite a few residents have written to me saying that they're very opposed to this. I don't really understand what the opposition to it is.
I think the library in Bury does a lot of those sorts of things anyway, so I don't think.
I don't think they do health.
I think they do a lot of stuff with young people and children, early years stuff they do
Yeah.
there. We took our youngest there for a number of times for having a wave and
Oh, okay.
they do
So I
quite
stand
a bit of that
corrected
sort of
then.
thing.
It's a long time since my children who are now in their 30s were weighed. But I know.
But yeah, it doesn't sound like the end of the world as a thing. My only comment with regards to the mobile libraries is I think it's really good when it comes to the village hall. I'm not quite sure how much good it does along Church Road when it sort of parks halfway up, because I don't think it ever gets any visitors.
I think he was having his lunch.
I don't know, because he comes every Tuesday at a regular time slot, and
I think he's still having his lunch.
Maybe he or she is visiting someone. Who knows? Could be anything really, couldn't it?
Given the national crisis about libraries, I'm delighted that Suffolk decided to continue.
Well, so am I, actually, so am I. And I think let's put it into context. We've got a very good functioning library service that hasn't seen cuts. And so I think in this day and age, I think actually we're in quite a healthy space with the libraries. So I'm still unsure about what the big concern is at the moment.
And may I just ask one final question? I'm conscious you need to get away, Karen. Just asking about devolution and what your feelings are about it, and how are people at the councils? I know Paul Rout's been appointed as a cabinet. Is it Paul Rout?
Richard Rout.
Richard Rout, a cabinet member, to take responsibility for the changes. How is everybody feeling about it?
So the county council today, we just had a county council meeting. They've just voted in favour of a single unitary. So the county council has voted overwhelmingly in favour of a single unitary. Don't forget that single unitary is something that operates in, say, Birmingham, large metropolitan conurbations, but also Wiltshire has become unitary. So Wiltshire, I would say, is just a sort of more expensive property base than Suffolk, but still quite similar in terms of rurality of the county. So there are quite a few areas that have gone into a unitary. The argument is that they're going to save quite a lot of money because you're going to have, for instance, what was old social care homes or council homes, and you're going to have social care and children's services in one council. Well, if you've got children coming out of care at 16 and you've got the same council running homes, then it's a no-brainer. There's hopefully less likely for those teenagers to fall through the net. They're actually going to be more joined up. Similarly with aged care and children's services. And I think it's quite a good thing. I voted in favour. I know there's quite a lot of noise about potentially having two councils, so a side-by-side council. I think that sort of almost defeats the object of doing all this upheaval. I think if you do the upheaval, you get the maximum saving. But essentially, you would not have me as your district councillor, you just have me as your county councillor. So for you, it wouldn't make any difference because I'm here in two capacities. But for some other areas, you get two. But I think it really does depend on how committed your elected representative is. And that's down to who you elect, not potentially how many councillors there are. Because there are some councillors that do much more than other people. Now, I'm not making any judgment or any political statement with that. That's just the fact of characters. Some people do more than others. But if you take a layer out, I do think that it might have an impact on parish councils. Because if you're just going to have a unitary at this level, then you've got nothing in between the unitary, which runs basically all the sort of high value services, then you've got parish. I think there's an opportunity for parish then to influence things at a much greater level than, now that isn't in the detail that's coming from government, but that is my gut feeling. Because if you've got nothing in between, the next one down is parish.
Perhaps you can just explain one thing to me then, and that's the role of the mayor.
So the mayor would be completely separate. The mayor would be a little bit like the police and crime commissioner. So they'd be directly elected by the population.
And I read somewhere, I think in one of your reports, that he would have no oversight
Or
or she, beg your pardon.
Or they.
Would have no oversight or direct engagement with the day-to-day running of the unit authority, and yet they're responsible for strategy, responsible for transport throughout Norfolk and Suffolk.
But that would be in the same way that the police and crime commissioner is. It would be the same relationship. That he's directly elected by the population, but actually the officers on the ground or the senior officer in charge of the police makes the nitty-gritty decisions. So the police and crime commissioner affects the strategy and the priorities directed by the government, but it's the senior officer of the police that make the budgetary decisions.
One last thing, sorry, John, I'm going on. So because I tend to go to these forums and
yes,
free things online, there would presumably be a fair bit of doubling up coming through this process, as there would if your two companies were merging, doubling up of office space, doubling up of people, doubling up of jobs, doubling up. Does the authority see savings coming through freeing up of buildings, then more, and freeing up of people, unfortunately?
Yes. And I think it will be year-on-year savings. So it may be that the first year doesn't save as much, but as you carry on, you save more. Because of course it will cost money to get rid of these buildings, to make people redundant. You know, there are upfront costs with everything. But I do think it's a bit streamlining of it. For me, I think it's madness to have 3 layers of local government and then central government. Because essentially you've got 4 layers of government. Parish, district, county and parliament.
I think it's very good. My final thing though would be on that. I think as Keir Starmer recently said that people are finding it quite difficult dealing with the state.
Yeah.
That's to do with the civil service. I think we're finding it quite difficult dealing with the state to get potholes finished and put road signs up straight.
Yeah.
And so hopefully...
And so am I.
So hopefully that there may be some improvement in that process in dealing with the state, rather than being a bit of a punch-up for parish councils, the one that shouts loudest. It'll actually be the people who
and that's not right in itself, but I'm telling you, like it is, I'm a realist.
All right, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sister.
Sorry, so Karen, I you work really hard tonight.
That's what I know.
So in,
I'm quite like it actually.
in your role as West Suffolk Council,
Yes.
We were following through our enforcement case for woodlands.
Yep.
Which I don't know if you remember is where they took lots of trees out between the house they were extending and the road. And we were advised not to object, but to ask for a condition to put in planning permission for a landscaping plan so that trees were replaced. And all the development's been done, and all the trees have not been replaced, and it's just a big gap now. And so we asked for some follow-up as to whether there was an enforcement case. And the answer I see we've just got back this month is that there's no resources that we're supposed to follow it through. So, it seems we were badly advised by the planning officer, and I just wondered, as our councillor,
Yes,
can you help us in some way?
yes, send it to me and I will, so there's a new head, a new head of planning, and I will send it to her. There's also an enforcement case officer that I can rattle a few cages.
Okay, that'd be really good, because I think it's one that we all put quite a lot of effort into.
I should think you feel a bit hoodwinked.
Sorry, second?
I should think you feel a bit hoodwinked.
We do, yes,
Yeah, yeah, I would too.
Yeah. I don't know about the rest of the councils, but I just don't feel we should let it drop yet.
Not me.
Yeah.
I found an old photograph of that area. It's in their archives. And beautiful trees billowing out. It's lovely. And there is almost nothing left as a result of these developments.
The clue is in the name.
Yeah.
Spinning, yes. There is
Woodlands.
So what details do you want from us?
So I guess I probably want a bit of a synopsis of what's happened with a bit of evidence of what they promised you.
Right.
We have the email trail.
Yeah, I do. I don't want that. Don't give me reams.
No.
I mean, just give me literally short
Maybe
synopsis.
it'd be helpful
What I
to have
need-
a photo.
Sorry?
Would it help to have
Yeah,
a photo of it as it is?
And definitely the email where they promised
Yeah.
what you should have and what should happen, and then and I like an idiot's guide
Yeah.
on the front,
Well,
if that's
Catherine,
all
can
right.
we dig around and did we get it in writing, that advice?
I'll look to see what there is. I mean, I think in fairness, you have been copied in on all the stuff, but I'll have another go at collating it.
Yeah, that would be really helpful because I've got 16 parish councils and
Yeah.
with the best will in the world, I can't search my thousands of emails
No.
that I'm getting.
That's okay. I don't know if somebody could get an up-to-date photo, which we could, because it is quite stark.
Yeah, we can do a photo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything you need to
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I hate to be cynical
No, please don't.
on this move to a unitary authority in Cornwall, and there are other rural authorities, and I can see that it's a way of making cuts, and there can be positive things out of it. I mean, most borough councils don't have resources to employ ecologists, for example, to look at biodiversity net gain and all the assemblage comes with planning applications these days, and tree offices and that sort of thing. And so a larger body with more staff, centralised, so there's more cover, will have more resources. But if we can't get a tree officer to come out from various Lebanons regularly, realistically,
How are we
the
going to get one
converse
out of it?
is, how are they going to know the location? How are we actually going to have fair representation? You say you've got 16 parishes. Well, what's that going to be in the future? So there is a converse to all this, and I can see that it will be pushed through because it's in the
coming
county
from central
council's
government,
interest, and it's going to be sort of bribed through. There'll be funding, extra funding because of it, but there will be a potential awful knock-on, and we're already losing services in Bury and around Bury. We've lost our good office and that sort of thing. And I understand that move, and I think public finances are in a horrendous state, and hopefully the current government will be able to pull things round to a degree. But once you've lost that representation, then it's a one-way street, probably, isn't it?
I do agree with your fears. The only thing I would say is there's 75 county councillors, and what they're looking at is between 100 and 120 unitary councillors.
Okay.
So that would give you, so I've got about 8,000 residents, and it's likely to come down to about 6,000. So that should make it, but then you don't have district and parish, district and county, but then I'm both for you here. But you did used to have Mike before the boundary changes, you did have Mike and me. Whether you felt you got a lot more from that, I don't know. I maybe you did, but
I think we have various councillors, but as you said, it depends on the individual.
I think it does come down to the individual and simply what they're willing to do.
We have had some fantastic ones in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. As currently, obviously.
Well, thank you, you don't need to say that.
But
But
thank you for that.
I do take your
I
concern.
just think things need to be weighed up because it's not, you know, the Labour Party when it last got into power, Tony Blair's time, actually wanted to abolish parish councils, and they went ahead on this big platform and we're going to abolish one whole level of bureaucracy, and then they realised actually parish councils didn't cost anything, they were run by volunteers. Actually,
Well, that was
Yeah.
progress.
yeah, but often governments come in with these sort of
Well,
slightly unthought through ideas.
NHS England, I mean that has been abolished. So and I work for the NHS, so not NHS England, but yeah. So there are big changes being pushed through by the government, and I'm not making a political statement by that, because I think certainly with the NHS and with big government bodies, you do need bold thinking, and you do need thinking that's going to be more than 5 years of your electoral cycle. Because to make significant change should not be just thought of, will that get me elected? It's, will that deliver for the population for 20, 30, 50 years?
Absolutely, yeah.
But, you know, I'm not a one-term person.
Okay, thank you very much for all that. That was very helpful. Thank
Are you okay if I go?
Yeah.
I'll chase that email and I'll give you an answer while I see. Yeah, I just copied you and I just chased it with highways for you.
I see.
So I
Right.
just told you I chased it. No, I've not given you a problem.
So I thought you said you got an answer.
No,
What is
I'm not that stupid. I can't do that. I can't multitask that one.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, declaration of interest.
Yes, I have as honorary treasurer, or auditor rather, of Hawstead Community Council.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah. And I am a trustee of the land, I discovered the other day, rather than actually of the Hawstead Community Council. And I'm also chair of Riverline Cashel Partnership. Everybody happy with that? Dispensations required? Okay. Minutes. The minutes of the 3rd of February Festival, everybody happy with those?
Fine.
Yes.
Yes.
And 21st of February?
Fine.
Great, thank you. Any matters arising? Fine, okay, thank you. As far as my report is concerned, all I have done is that I looked at the village WhatsApp group and wrote to Hopkins Homes in order to try and get some answers from that. And I received the statement from their new, possibly, public relations firm, which I circulated to the council a couple of days ago, and which I'm suggesting is put on the website. Is everybody happy with that? So
No,
people could be in.
I don't think it should be put on there. I'd really like to see, if I may say so, Ross, what you wrote to Hopkins Homes. Could you share that with us at some stage, please?
I listed the things that had been.
It's not transparent, is it? You know, I thought that whenever any of us did any official correspondence, it should be through Catherine.
I was trying to get a statement from Hopkins Homes as a baseline for them now discussing where they might be falling down in the future and what they're intending to do about the problems in the past. We have a statement. We don't need, therefore, to go through the history of what everybody has been talking about on the WhatsApp group, some of which has possibly been not as helpful to further discussion as it might have been. So I asked them to give a statement, which I have circulated to the council. I think if we're trying to hold Hopkins Homes to account for what they may or may not do in the future, the village needs to know what they are promising to do.
Okay, thank you, Roz. So can I just say that, as I understood it, at the last parish council meeting, a working party was appointed to work towards the aims that we agreed at that meeting. The working party consists of 4 members of the parish council. I'd really like to know what you wrote, because I just feel that we're at cross purposes. I think it's important that I say that.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. What objection do you have of publishing your email to them?
I don't need to ambush you, Ros, that's the last thing I want to do. But I just feel we need to be completely transparent and working together. Catherine has already written. Can I just say Catherine has written to who we said we'd write to, which was Matthew, which was the managing director of Hopkins Homes, copying Matthew Hicks. The parish council were very happy for Catherine to send that letter. It was a fabulous letter, but we now find that you're writing independently.
Is there any objection to this? Is there a matter of fact that you would like to query with regard to the statement that they have sent us? Because what I did do was I tried to invite them to come to the meeting, and I told them what had been being discussed on the WhatsApp group, and they decided they would send a statement instead.
Why is it so difficult to publish your email? I don't understand. Why are you being so protective about it?
I wanted to get a statement from them about what they were doing.
Right, so why can't you just publish your email? Emails are meant to be shared with the parish council.
I haven't said I won't publish it. What is the assumption that you're making?
There's no assumption. I'm just saying, we're meant to be open and transparent, and
we have said
you seem to be resisting. Letters are meant to go through the clerk.
No, decisions that go through the clerk. I was trying to get information.
But that's what the working party have been tasked to do, Ros. The 4 of us have been working tirelessly for the last month.
So is there something in the statement from Hopkins Homes which
somehow
undermines what you've been
You're
doing?
deflecting my question, Ros. Can you please, why did you write separately when you know very well the working party have been tasked to fulfil the aims of the parish council?
Have you written directly to Hopkins Homes?
No.
Have you expressed
Catherine knows.
I was very concerned about the somewhat angry, aggressive tone of the things that were happening on the WhatsApp group. I thought I would express the anxieties of the village and get a statement, which is what I achieved.
The point does still stand that communication with Hopkins Homes should have gone through the parish council as opposed to just from the chair.
I think we are all entitled to get some information. You have been writing to Karen and to Nick Timothy.
And that's all open and shared.
The text of your emails to Nick Timothy haven't been shared. We try and get information from as many sources as we can.
They have.
Right. Can we move on, please? Because it is already 8:30.
I don't. Right. This isn't personal, rather. I just don't know why you're getting so animated. Why we can't just,
Okay.
share.
So we are to receive reports from the working party, and I would like to then put in the statement from Hopkins Homes. Does the statement from Hopkins Homes answer any of the problems that you have raised in the working party? And if not, where is it that you find a discrepancy? Because it's that we need to establish. What is the difference between what you are saying and what they are saying? I want to try and cut through this antagonism. Right, so could you answer my question, please? What is the difference between what you found out and what they are saying?
Well, I mean, basically the response they gave you was similar sort of cut and pasting that we've had from them before. So I don't think there's anything particularly new there.
I would say, sorry, just about the statement, just the statement itself, the overall statement itself. The statement itself was actually sent from Hopkins Homes. Hopkins Home. It wasn't sent from a person because it just sent from Hopkins Homes. Kind regards, Hopkins Homes. So it says, should you have any further questions or queries, please do not hesitate to get in touch. Kind regards, Hopkins Homes. They haven't even got a name or a phone number. It's just a PR company that sent us a message from Hopkins Homes. It's almost anonymous. And I do find that actually adds, it doesn't detract, doesn't help. It almost adds to the feeling of contempt almost that one feels. Thank you very much. Hopkins Homes, just deal with this PR person, and that's what we have. That just really doesn't help.
Is that the case, or Ross, was that a redaction with regards to protecting the identity of the
I am trying to protect the identity of the people that I'm talking to. That is the reason I'm not so...
Why?
Because...
Why?
Because of the reason why they don't come to public meetings, which is that they are afraid of being lynched.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm not. It's, look, the reason
The
that
Chelsea
oh, come on. Look, right, there was the reason that Highways and Hopkins Homes did not attend the meeting in Nottingham was because there had been 2 messages via WhatsApp to villages roundabout, which made Highways feel that there was a safety issue. And I can understand why Highways may have felt that. Because they did not want to be inundated by hundreds of cars and hundreds of people in a very small space.
Well,
there is a very good reason why that happened. And therefore, since I just happened to know the name of somebody to write to who is fairly high up in Hopkins Homes, I am trying not to.
So you don't trust the Bristol Parish Council. That's what you're saying. I mean, it doesn't look good, Roz.
I don't wish it to go out on the village WhatsApp group.
We're not talking about the village WhatsApp group. We're talking about sharing with the parish council.
With respect, the details of the Hopkins Homes that have been shared previously haven't shared outside the parish council. So I think it's somewhat unfair to make an assumption that we may do something untoward with that information.
Right. This thing labelled Hopkins Homes has come, as I said, from their public relations company. It's a completely separate company. And I think that's an interesting situation that they feel under that level of pressure. Can we please take their statement that they have sent us, and I would like the Working Party now to interrogate the statement and tell us where they think the statement is in error or inadequate, please. Because if we can establish those facts, then we might be able to move on.
Okay.
One of the troubles is that there has been quite a lot of angriness, and I don't think that has helped conduct the negotiations. So can we try and keep it calm and establish where there is a problem between what they are saying and what you think is the situation as the Working Party, please? That's what I'm asking.
May I just say was that I read the letter thoroughly 2 or 3 times, and my conclusion about the whole letter was not me, Gov, nothing to do with us.
And that's an emotive statement. Where is the gap between what they are saying? Could you be explicit?
Okay, I'll start. Right.
Hang on, wait a minute. Christabel was next.
I just want to say, we're all working towards the same aim. And I don't care a jot really whether the statement that's come from Hopkins Homes just says Hopkins Homes, or it's got the name of a chief executive, or a communications officer, or a cleaner. I really don't care. It's still being presented as a statement from Hopkins Homes.
Yes.
And So from that point of view, I don't see any problem with us publishing it to the village. I don't think it actually says anything new. I don't think it has any surprises in it. And I think what we probably need to be doing, I'm sure the working party are working towards this anyway, is to look at what is best for Hawstead, what we can do to make things better for the village, given the situation we're in. We're not going to change anything. The works are going to happen, the cars are going to come through, but what we need to be looking at is how can we make repairs at the end of it, and how can we try and make improvements. So I don't really want to get involved with this discussion between the working party and whatever and Ross, because I think we just need to look forward and say, where can we take this next? What do we need to do next?
That's precisely what is happening.
Right. Well, I would say that one of the clarifications is on the primary school funding, because that wasn't clear, and there was a certain amount of assumptions being made in the WhatsApp messages that I was reading. So that the primary school site is going to be handed over to the county council for use as a primary school if there comes a time when there is a need for a primary school. At the moment there are falling school rolls. There were fewer children born during the pandemic than one might have supposed. And therefore there is no need for an extra primary school at the moment. But the land will not be used for housing or for anything else. It will be transferred to Suffolk County Council so that they can use it. And that has no effect on the nearly £4 million which they are also going to pay to Suffolk County Council to be distributed as part of the education budget. So I think that is a clarification that we didn't know before, or that had become muddy, shall we say, before. Henry, you wanted to say something?
Well, no, you just say what's different. I mean, they said they're working diligently overnight on Fridays and Sundays. Well, there hasn't been much evidence of any work on Friday night. And why they're not working on Saturday night, nobody's answered that. The only thing they've said is they don't work on Sunday night, which I think is reasonable because they might need to use that as an overrun if something went over schedule. But not work on Fridays and Saturdays, I think is not acceptable.
I think they answered that question in the online meeting that we had, which is that they have a team of people. They don't want to swamp their work site with a team of untrained people. And of course the team of people is a finite team and needs to be given some time off overnight. I think that was what they were saying about.
Yeah, they can have two teams of people if they put a bit more money into the system. Basically they're maximising Hopkins Home's bottom line at the
Well, we live in a capitalist society, that's what capitalist companies do.
Well, the point is that the powers that be should be holding them to account, not allowing them to get away with it. But anyway, to answer your question though, I mean, there's nothing really in this reply that you got from whoever it was that says anything different from we've had before.
What I would say, Henry, is the thing about verges and potholes, talking about 5.4 million and the SY6 agreement, blah blah, with a further £455,000 spent by Hopkins Home to decrease the programme of road closures from 12 weeks to just 16 days. That says to me they could have done it at any point in 16 days if they'd been willing to spend the money.
Well,
so clearly we're getting 12 weeks of delay because they won't spend the money in doing it properly, which I think in a nutshell is exactly what we've been saying for the last 3 weeks.
Correct.
It is a shame that we keep having the SY6 is sort of thrown our way as a sort of sweeping the pot, as it were, in terms of what's been going on, because then when looking at it, not a lot of that money is actually going to come south very significantly. So, when you look into it further, they're going to be working on places like Kings Road in very central Bury roads in terms of fixing repairs and improvements. It's not going to be coming our way, and so I think it's quite disingenuous that it keeps being sent back to us as we've put all this money forward when actually it's going to end up being taxpayers' money that's used to repair the roads in our area to get the infrastructure back to the amazing state it was in prior.
Well, I think therefore we need to make a very big push on both Hopkins Homes and Anglian Water, because Anglian Water trashed Wepstead Road last year and it still has not been.
Okay, let's be
Yeah.
honest now. Anglian Water are just going to turn around and say, not us, that's a me. No, come on, be honest, Ross. Anglian Water, yes, there was a problem, but they are not going to do anything.
They have
with the
written
amount
to
of
us.
mess.
They have written to us. We have a letter from them saying, yes, once it's all done, we will repair the verges.
They're not going to repair the verges in the state they are now, because all the traffic that's been coming down for the last 2-3 weeks has nothing to do with Anglian Water.
Well, have you been up Wepstead Road recently? Because that is all Anglian.
I'm worried about Bell's Lane. That is the absolute pit at the moment. I don't
I
dare
think I
look-
can beat you with a pothole which is that wide up the top of the hill.
Have you tried looking at Rosemary's driveway? Yeah, you can almost lose a car.
Yeah,
I think the fact we've got the state of Anglian Water, we hopefully can use it in future to run it. Just one small thing that I was going to ask was, one of the things we obviously have achieved since the last meeting is that we've got these various signs up green and at the end of Hawstead Lane, at Bell's Lane, all this sort of thing. How much change they've made obviously is open to debate. But I wanted to suggest that the two signs in the village green that say Nature Reserve, possibly we could ask for a different sign, because I think what it really needs to say at some point on it is please do not drive on the grass. And I think perhaps if we could ask some, and also I think that if we change the signs every few weeks, people are more likely to take notice of them. So I wonder if we could actually ask Hopkins Homes contractors if we could have 2 new signs that say Village Green, please do not drive on the grass. A bit more specific, to say Nature Reserve, which is not actually the wording we asked for. It's a bit, they presumably made that decision. It's a start, but it could be better. So my suggestion is we have the best start.
We asked Hopkins Homes, Catherine wrote to the Managing Director, Duncan Jackson, asking for exactly that. The signage came from highways, all of the signage has come from highways, and nothing at all from Hopkins Homes. If I can just have my 1 minute now of summary of where the working party are at present. Henry has done a chronological timeline of all of the actions day by day that the working party has been doing. Our objective is exactly what you said, Christabel. It's all about the village and making sure that the verges, the potholes, the signage, potential for speed signs in the village, speed cameras in the village. We're working towards a whole list of different requirements, be they short-term or long-term. We're doing that by securing interviews with the MP, which Henry has seen today, also with the leaders of West Suffolk Council and Suffolk County Council. So we're hoping to strongly put our case to those people and to get somewhere with our eventual requirements as per the aims that we set out for the working party to work towards.
Yeah, thank you, John.
I'd just like to,
yes.
I'd just like to record some thanks actually to the working party for the hard work that they've put in.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Henry.
Yeah, so I won't bore everybody. As John said, I've done sort of a timeline of things generally and a sort of a timeline of the what the working party's been doing. So thanks very much to James for his diligent recording of what's been going on Bell's Lane, and also Amanda Brown, who's been monitoring Pam. I mean, the main thing that jumps out is that Bell's Lane was about 12 cars per hour, and it's now gone up to, in some worst case scenario, what was it, 170 something, so that's 14 times the amount of traffic. So, you know, that's pretty grim. I think it's worth, you know, trying to fight against to minimise it as much as we can, which is basically what we're trying to do. So, as I say, I've handed that out so people can see that if they want to. But the sort of last minute thing was I saw Alex and I saw Nick Timothy today and speaking about it, and there was also the chairman of Nowton Parish Council and the chairman of Great Bonneatham Parish Council, and they all said they want to open Low Green. So, you know, that's the chairman of Nowton Parish Council saying want to open Low Green. So that would be significant benefit to us if Low Green was opened. Nick Timothy agrees with that. He thinks that should happen. He is going to write to Matthew Hicks to say that, but he has asked, could we write to Matthew Hicks as well, to say that we'd like Low Green opened, and also to ask questions about the Relief Road delay as well. So literally we only got back about 5:30, so we didn't have an awful lot of time. But I've cobbled together a letter, and as I said, we were discussing earlier, we think all letters should go from the clerk, but you know, so could I hand out a letter for you to have a quick look at and see what you all think of it?
Yes, certainly.
And then we can, because then we can send it. Nowton is having an extraordinary general meeting in order to approve a letter.
Okay.
So,
can I just ask a question about
Yeah.
this relief road?
yeah.
The relief road goes through the roundabout, so it is not possible for them to have made the relief road without the roundabout, is it?
No.
Right. So the opening of the relief road depends on the bridge over the River Lark.
Yes.
But it could not be put into use as a relief road without the roundabout.
Correct, I agree with that.
So it is not possible then to have started the relief road without doing the roundabout first.
Well, you could do all the bits apart from the roundabout, surely. Why not?
But I don't think, isn't the point that they're not trying to delay the roundabouts at all?
No.
They're just going to say we're not going to complete the relief road until
We've flocked
a
a few more
large number
houses.
of houses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're not saying they're not building the relief road.
No, they're not. They're delaying it.
But it wouldn't help the traffic situation if they built the relief road, because the traffic has to go through the roundabout. And the reason for the
But they're delaying it long beyond April. They're talking about next year.
Well, but if they don't have the traffic flows that they were expecting 10 years ago, which they're saying they don't have, then maybe there isn't currently the need for the
There
road.
is still significant traffic, even if it's not to the level that they were expecting. And it would be better if that traffic could be directed in multiple directions. Hence,
I think
Southgate
you'll
as
find
well
that
as
they're building the roundabouts so they can sell more homes, so they can get on and off the site they've actually built. As I see it, if you build 200 homes, you're going to get 400 cars, 2 cars to house on average. And whether that was at the time of planning, that would be the case. It's still the case now. I don't see what difference it makes what the existing traffic on the 134 is. Those homes will produce that many cars. That hasn't changed. I don't see.
Well, it might have done in that they have been building more cycle tracks. There will be people now who will be cycling on the new track into Bury St Edmunds. There will be from there.
So are you saying you think it's reasonable for them to delay building the relief road?
I don't think that building the relief road would have helped any of the chaos that has happened over the last few weeks.
No, I'm not saying it would. I'm not saying it would.
And therefore, I can understand why they have wanted to complete the traffic works on the roundabout first.
That's not the question.
I think part of the problem of not having the relief road there sort of quite soon after the roundabout is completed is that because there's still going to be traffic that's just going on that one road, you know that the A134 gets a lot of traffic, is that where the layout of that new roundabout, where the priority is given to those coming off of the housing estate, may cause tailbacks, which then again pushes people down rat runs because they don't want to sit in a queue at that point either. So there's the potential that it becomes a long-standing issue of rat runs being moved around the area, as opposed to if the relief road is there, it allows for that traffic flow to go in multiple directions, as opposed to sitting this side of it.
But since it is their land, they may not want to open it while they're still building. I mean, I don't see how the relief road is a material improvement to the amount of traffic.
Well,
Once
I
they've
think
got the
everybody else
roundabout.
does.
Yeah,
Includes in the name.
yeah, ultimately there's going to be 1,500 houses in that development.
1,250. That's the other reason for the
1,000.
non-material amendment, that there are going to be fewer houses there. There are fewer houses in other developments round about Bury. That was the argument. And also that people are working from home.
But that's going to, surely that's still going to reduce over 1,000 cars. The best part, 2,000 new cars coming off that development in and out every day. And so you need a relief road. I think the only reason for not building it is because they just don't want to spend the money doing it. Anybody, for them, it gets to a point where you sold enough houses that everybody who's so many on this estate, they're going to go, oh, we really need a relief, it'd be such better. And then they'll build the blasted thing when the people who are buying the houses are going, yeah, I can't get on and off here, but we're building a relief road. That's when they'll build it, because that's what, as soon as it affects the actual sales.
Well, I think the road is built, it's the bridge that isn't built.
Does anybody here think, apart from Ros, that it's a good idea to delay building a relief road?
I'm not saying it's a good idea, I'm saying I don't think it will make any difference to the problem that we've got.
Okay,
at the
if it
moment.
doesn't...
The problem that we have at the moment is the fact that the A134 is a very narrow road and they cannot work on one half of it and keep the other half going. They can't pull up the cat's eyes in the middle of it because they get run over.
I think
Yeah,
I
know
think you're sort of talking about purposes really, because I don't think it will make any difference to the roundabout and the works that's being done at the moment. It's a completely separate issue. We're looking to the future, so we want things to go as smoothly as possible in the future, which means we want the relief road building as soon as possible.
Yes.
So I think that's the point really.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with the roundabout works at the moment. We're trying to prevent yet another problem in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what our MP said to me today was, please write a letter to Matthew Hicks saying that we're not in favour of relief road being delayed, and we are in favour of Low Green being open as soon as possible.
Okay.
And my attempt is a letter. Obviously Catherine's much better at writing letters, but what we don't want to do is go away from here without a letter. That's okay, because they're expecting a letter, and Mountain is having an extraordinary general meeting specifically to be able to write a letter about those 2 points. So please, can we agree to write a letter, either what I've written or something very similar? And if not, please, let's have a coherent reason why not.
Well, I wrote to Hopkins Homes about a month ago saying that the reopening of the closing of Low Green was not a good idea. I think we're all agreed that the closing of Low Green was
Right, so when did you change your mind on that one?
Didn't.
Yes, you did. You said it was a good idea about 3 weeks ago.
Well, I said the argument was that people would. I think there was an argument possibly that Southgate roundabout would get the other roundabout which is beyond. You're right. The triangular roundabout just past Southeast School, between Southeast School and the Victory Sports Ground, will get probably jammed up. And the next roundabout, which goes into Bury, will probably get jammed up. I'm not convinced that opening Low Green will help that, but it might help us.
Well, it would
Yeah,
certainly
unfortunately,
help us.
closing Low Green wouldn't really prevent any of that because people would just get to the exact same place through Hawstead anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that's happened is put everybody through basically Bells Lane and Hawstead. They end up in exactly the same place as they would be if they'd gone through Low Green. So, I mean, the chairman of Nowton Parish Council wants Low Green.
That's
open,
well, that,
you know, as does Wellneatham, as do we. So, you know, I think we should write
Can I
that.
suggest have a vote on it?
Yes.
Whether, not necessarily, just in principle, whether to write a letter saying we support the reopening of Low Green and we object to the Leaf Road being delayed. As far as actual nitty-gritty of the wording, perhaps we could look at that after the meeting.
Yeah.
But in the principle of writing that letter, I'm proposing that we vote on.
Yeah.
okay,
Sure.
so everybody in favour, first of all, of the reopening of Low Green? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's unanimous, I think. And of the non-delay of the Relief Road? Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Hmm?
Don't is
Yeah.
there anything else anybody wants to say about this item on the agenda?
Only to emphasise that as far as I'm concerned, the important thing is Hawstead, the village, and making certain that as far as we can possibly negotiate and arrange, that after this, after all of this sorry affair has come to a conclusion, that we make sure that we have some reinstatement and mitigation, exactly as we laid out in the minutes of the last parish council meeting.
But I would only want to add to that we do have children in the village and that additional funding for primary school places is actually a benefit to the village. Might not be happening in the village, but education in this county is really sadly underfunded, and the idea that primary school funding is somehow to deal with other villages is not the case, because all of our children in this village go to school in Bury St Edmunds or in Lushel or Great Wellneatham. So they benefit too from this. And there are public cycleways which I think people in this village might want to benefit from too. So let's not say that just because it's not happening in the village doesn't benefit people of the village.
I'm only emphasising that, as I've said several times, my focus is on the aims as we set out in the minutes of the last parish council meeting. That's all I wanted to say, Ross, and I think I've said that several times.
And I would say that there are children in the village who need educating. So good.
But that's nothing to do with the...
Yes, it is. There's £4 million going into the education budget, which is not out of the benefit of the goodness of their hearts. It is because the council insisted on it when they first gave the planning permission. But, okay, can we move on, please? Communications, Henry.
Yeah, well, I think communication's working quite well. I think the village WhatsApp group works quite well. People have been able to express their views, get a feeling for what have you. I think we're going to put an item on the agenda for next time about Hawstead Parish Council WhatsApp group and the communications there.
We have
on this one.
This is on this.
It's on this one, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry.
It's further down near down.
Ah, right, my apologies. Okay, good. Yeah, and I think it's, I don't know, has anybody got any comments about how we can make it better? Any thoughts? Anyone from the floor?
No. Already 9 o'clock. Right, can we move on, please? Highways, anything to say about highways? I think we've said a lot about highways. The enormous pothole at the top of Oxford Road has been reported. They did actually draw a little yellow line around it, but the yellow line has disappeared because the pothole has got bigger. They have promised to mend it.
I'd only like to mention Paul Hill.
Yeah.
And the water that's flowing down Ball Hill.
Yeah.
I've spoken to various people today, including Penny Barham, who lives very close to the problem. She tells me that the issue is caused by the gullies that aren't being properly cleared out by highways. Tim Webber, the local farmer, also confirms exactly that. So we've had responses today. In fact, we've had numerous responses, some saying they won't do the work, and then they're going to do the work, and then they're not going to do the work, and then it's like this all the time. So hopefully I will persevere, because I think it could be dangerous when the road is icy, and we could have an accident, God forbid. So I will continue to get something done by highways who are responsible for doing the work.
And we can take up Karen's suggestion. It is not just the preserver, the parish council, anybody can use reporting to. And I do agree with you, John, that is an absolute ice slide when it gets cold. We've been very lucky this winter, it hasn't been as cold as it might have been. Okay, volunteering. I think that's you too, John.
Okay, I'll be very quick. Only that we've done some work down at Hawstead Brook. I think that I've had several comments from different people from time to time. There's lots to do, but we've entered the bird nesting season now, so I'm very conscious of that. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
We had a good work party then.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We did. It was impressive, wasn't it?
Very impressive. Excellent. Who knew there were so many hedge funds in the village?
Thank you. Right, Greens, Christopher.
Right, I'll try and keep this quick. So, the ongoing saga of changing from environmental stewardship to sustainable farming incentive, I think I said at the last meeting that the goalposts move all the time, and indeed they have moved, seen again. So, the first stage was I was doing the mapping changes we need to do online. I've now done the second phase of that, which is the additional bits of land which we didn't have on the rural land register before. I have checked our portal today, and actually the workers have done it. So now we've got all the right land on the register, which then means that when we get in a situation where we can apply for sustainable farming incentive, we're much quicker to do it, because you basically pick your parcel of land, you say what your option is, you're going to do it, and you do it all online. However, I also said at the last meeting I was trying to get some advice from Wilson Rate, who are the land agents who gave us a report last year on how to take this forward, and they have confirmed that at the moment there is no mechanism for changing from environmental stewardship to sustainable farming incentive unless your agreement comes to an end this year, and ours doesn't. Ours comes to an end in 2027. So that basically meant we. But then they also confirmed they were awaiting an announcement in the middle of this year as to how land managers in our situation could take it forward. Then this week there has been an announcement by DEFRA, which is basically that they are putting a pause on any sustainable farming incentive applications in this financial year.
They've spent it.
They've spent it. They've reached the cap with the amount of money they had available, and they are going to be issuing a statement about a reset as to how sustainable farming incentive will go forward. And there was no real indication of what that meant by a reset. So, once again, it's a case of watch this space. I'll report back at the next meeting to the next goalposting.
Thank you very much. I heard this morning that it was they're going to announce what the scheme is going to be later this year, but there will be no new applications until next year.
Not till the next financial year, yeah.
I thought it was next year.
Oh, I took it as financial year.
You're going to announce it in May.
Anyway, it makes no difference to us because
no.
ours doesn't end until 2027.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that makes I'll keep you on this.
Thank you very much. Okay, river proposals. Yes, so things are moving on very, very slowly. The Anglian Water has now announced a Riverlark, what they're calling a plan, but which is in fact a survey of all of the issues that the Lark has from this village right the way up to Prickwillow, where it joins the Ouse. So our issue over there is on that survey of things to be done. This whole project is going to be part of Anglian Water's A-Winner scheme. The A-Winner is an environmental add-on to the WINEP requirements that there are. So the requirements for water quality and water quantity, which they are required to produce by statute, is WINEP. A-WINEP is the additional environmental benefits that they are hoping to achieve. They have put a sizable amount of money into A-WINEP. By that I mean multi-million pounds, but it does also have to cover their entire region, which is very large, goes right the way up to the Humber. But they have put aside very nice sum of money for the Riverlark improvements. So I am confident that we will be able to, by next autumn, have some money to do the scheme that we have been trying to do.
Autumn 26.
This autumn.
Right. Okay.
Right. So the scheme for the Riverlark flagship comes on stream this autumn. I have been able to get a volunteer manager and administrator post out of them, which will help me organise and apply for additional funding. So the whole scheme has got to be partly funded by Anglian Water and partly by other additional funds which we have to apply to. So it could be locality funding from the local council, or it could be charity funding. So it'll be a case of cobbling funding together to get a major project going on the Lark. What has already happened, though, however, is that the Environment Agency has funded the University of Southampton to do a fluvial audit of the entire river, which is to analyse the way in which sediment flows down it. And there is, you will be pleased to know, a sediment trap in the middle of the river up in Mr Webber's fields. So just before the Hawstead tributary joins the main river. That is going to be monitored once a month. We take the sediment out the trap, we dry it off, we send it off to the University of Southampton for analysis. That is the state-of-the-art, believe it or not, way of understanding how sediment moves through the river. And sediment in a chalk stream is bad news. This is one of the troubles, that this particular chalk stream, since it starts in this area of agricultural land, does absorb a lot of silt, and that is the problem that we have. So I know it's slow, and I'm sorry that it's slow, but believe me, I am working very hard and trying to get something done about it.
Thank you, Ross, for doing that, and for your passion with the Riverlark, and I applaud that.
Thank you.
There's no buts coming. I was only going to say that it's now been in excess of 12 months since the pipe was removed from the river opposite James's. You mentioned, I believe, at a previous meeting that you felt that it had asbestos in it. Whether it had, I have no idea.
I have no idea either. I don't want to touch it, thank you.
But you said it had asbestos.
No, I said it might have because of the age that it has.
Thank you. Apologies. It has been there for a year now. I think it's an absolute eyesore for its immediate neighbours, James. I don't know what can be done, or whether we agree to simply wait until the funding that you mentioned becomes available, or whether we should be in contact with Suffolk County Council more immediately to get something done.
Yeah, I wonder if Suffolk County Council will be able to, whether they've got a team to be able
I suppose, their culvert, which the farmer hoiked out of the river for whatever reason. Suffolk County Council is the flood authority, so we've got to get permission from them in any case to do the work. But I was waiting for funding to get a plan together, and it needs properly designing, and it needs designing in collaboration with the landowner, who has now changed, unfortunately. So it is really important not to do anything before you know what you're doing to a river. A lot of work has been done on the Lark, further upstream at Stowe. It's done by the leading river expert at the time in 2015. It has failed. They spent £50,000, I think, to try to improve the river there, and it didn't work. It is possible to spend thousands on a river and for it to fail. Yes.
Apologies, my point about contacting the Suffolk County Council was with the removal of the piece of pipe that's sitting on the side. Is that something they'd be able to assist with if there is any asbestos, etc.?
I don't know. I suppose we could ask them about that.
Well, and also, as far as I'm not certain, Christopher, we are the owners of that side of the river.
We are.
We own the land, yes.
Yeah, we are the landowners.
We are the riparian owner, yes, of that bank, and James is the riparian owner of the other bank just there. And where the river flows through Parish Council land, we own both banks, but it's not.
Yeah,
we don't
I
have very much
suppose
of
we
those
don't really maintain the culvert, do we?
No, that's highways.
Yes, so whether that makes it highways pipe or no, I don't really know. To be honest, I'm not a rock about it.
Nor me. I couldn't be able to
I
say
think it's
definitively, but I would surmise that it's Suffolk Highways piping. So
Maybe
just the question is, are we going to?
Perhaps we just need to report it on the reporting tool.
Yes, we could, I suppose. It's not actually on the. Yes, highways. It is highways.
Highways issue.
Yes.
Potentially. There you go.
One other quick question. Apologies, did we skip over the clerk report and?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not my eyes. I'm sorry. Clark.
Sorry about that.
It's the usual report. There were a few bits which are kind of hanging, so I suppose I'd highlight those. Somebody suggested at the last meeting footpath leaflets. Have you done anything about that?
I have actually. I have been speaking to the footpath lady at Suffolk County Council, and I sent Andy today something from the Brex Fenage organisation, which is doing a training course on how to run a footpath walk. So I asked him if he would be interested in that, because he's
Andy Farrow, who said he didn't want to do anything. Maybe he's changed his mind, I don't know. Okay, maybe you could let me copy me in on the correspondence, so
I can send you the correspondence from Brex Fenage, yes. Unless anybody else would like to do a course on how to run a footpath walk? No? That's why I sent it directly to Andy, because I thought he was the one person who might be interested.
I think the suggestion was actually to create some walks leaflets, wasn't it, rather than running walks?
Yes, but the principle we were saying that if you've designed a good walk and you have a good story to tell, it can either go into a leaflet or it could go into leading a walk. So I was asking him if he was interested in this.
Okay. There's other bits and pieces. I don't think we've got servicing arrangements yet for the generator.
No, but
Okay.
It will happen before next winter, Catherine. It has been serviced for this year.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay for a while.
Okay. It just drops off, doesn't it, until it's... The tree's still in the brook. I guess that's too late now to get it out.
So we'll have to wait until at least September. The problem is that the water level drops during the summer, and to make it accessible, and in the autumn the water level rises to make it inaccessible. So I've just thrown that into the mix.
Maybe we can try and get Stuart to go on the 1st of September before winter set in.
Can I make a suggestion? I mean, there's a kingfisher nest in previous years next door to it, and that's a Schedule 1 bird, so all nesting birds are protected, but they're particularly protected against even any sort of vaguely reckless work, and that is outlined in law. So I think come the end of August, we just keep a really good eye on what's going on down there. If the kingfisher's not nesting, they do sometimes have up to 3 broods, and they carry on into the autumn. So we just try and get in there quick. Totally agree. And unfortunately, the level was just too high when Stuart was wanting to get it out in February.
Am I right that we've paid for?
We've held back a bit
You've
for
held
the
back,
Just
trees.
reflect that.
Yeah. The rest of it's paid. There was a suggestion at the last meeting for brazier on the village green.
Well, the reception wasn't particularly optimistic about that I received. So I think in view of everything else that's been going on over the last few weeks, I thought it was probably best to shelve it for the time being. But I think in the long run, it would be a great addition, but we'd have to see. It would cost a couple of £1,000 as well. That's the problem. It's a lot of money. So I think we'll put that on the back burner.
The last thing on that list was the Woodlands enforcement case. I mean, actually, we've copied Karen in on everything we've sent
Yeah.
to them. There's no harm sending it again. I'm sure she gets lots of emails, but
Can I just say, if I may, Roz, I noticed that Catherine has worked an extraordinary number of hours helping us over the last few weeks or months or whatever, and I noticed that her hours are considerably in excess of the norm. So I'd like to propose that we recompense Catherine for working those extra hours.
100%. Yeah.
That's rather.
You do. Don't we pay? Don't you invoice us for the hours you work?
I don't invoice for additional one. I prefer just to go dormant in the summer, I think, rather than
Well, even so,
additional.
even so, from what I've seen, Catherine, you've gone far beyond the call of duty,
Yes.
and I would like to propose that we pay you. I think your average is normally about 40 hours, I think, ish.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to propose that we, if it's okay with everyone else, that we pay those additional 15 hours at Catherine's rate. It's just a gesture, Catherine, for what you've done for us.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you. There was no need for that. Really, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For me, yeah.
We've got footpaths. We've seen the report from the footpaths last week. Everything seems to be okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to it is, as per Janet's, what she's identified is dog fouling, and also I would also further to that dog control on some of the footpaths around the area. People not picking up after the dogs on a number of different footpaths in the area. I don't know whether communication or something could go out just as a gentle reminder to people about picking up after their dogs, but also making sure they maintain good control of their pets when there is private property that's adjacent to those footpaths. I know farmers' fields. Obviously, we've got the whole village green, which sometimes you see dogs running a bit rampant on. So, yeah, I was just wondering if it might be sensible to put communication out just as a
maybe we could do a little bit to go in the village voice, maybe about that. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Rather
that
than-
would be sufficient.
Okay. So, we don't know that. Okay. We are actually now on to bins. And the proposal to remove the dog fowl bins.
I think they're proposing replacing them with one, with a single bin which takes all kinds of waste. They, you know, or to make our own arrangements for emptying the dog bins. And, you know,
Have they
keep
given
existing
any
ones.
idea how much this is going to save? Yeah.
But to be fair, we don't pay for them to be emptied. And there, when I first started at the council a few years ago, 15 years ago or something, they were going to start charging, and we made a provision in the budget. That never came to anything. So that, you know, we all pay through the council tax for that service, but we don't specifically pay as a parish council for that to be done. And I don't think we can do, actually, because we would be charged. If they could, they would.
Yeah. I think. So maybe the opportunity for doing what you're suggesting, Alex, is this new bin. So that it would be a good idea, perhaps, to do this communication to the village to encourage people to pick up after their dog. When we have to announce to them that there are the smaller bins will be removed and there will be this one large noticeable bin. Yeah? When is that happening?
They're waiting for comments from us.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure it all being sort of signed, sealed and delivered. It does seem a shame to lose those, because I think the fewer points that you have, particularly if somebody's come from up Wells Lane or from further afield bringing their dog on a longer walk, and they don't necessarily use the car park to park up and walk their dog, potentially not going to go near the bin, and so don't want to go out their way to use said dog bin.
Well, I mean, this is a problem everywhere, isn't it? I think that by scooping up and putting it in the bag and then hanging on a tree, they're doing their duty. I don't understand how people can think that way, and how you change that.
I just wonder, maybe we should have asked this when Karen was here, but I do wonder whether, if you were minded as a council to do that, you do offer to pay for them picking up from an extra bin.
Well, I was going to suggest a compromise to say, well, can we keep the bins? It's going to cost them to take them away, isn't it? So if we say that you leave them, but we offer to pay for the emptying either by West Suffolk or by an independent contractor.
Right.
Well, any waste company will do it, don't they?
I'm not doing it.
Well, perhaps we ask West Suffolk Council if we could pay them, but that's the easiest way to do it, isn't it?
I think we could ask about that. I think there's a slight danger that we might end up, you know, paying for the one bin they want to give us, as well as,
The big bin.
yeah, sort of paying for all bins kind of thing, where we've had a freebie, but
I don't think it's really the best image when the community council are promoting wedding receptions in the village hall to have maybe an overflowing bin full of dog's mess right outside by the bottle bank. I'm not suggesting that's going to happen, but I spoke at length to the dog bin removal person a week or so ago about this very issue, and he said that when it's happened in other villages, very often people miss the black bin dustbin collection, or in fact the blue bin dustbin collection. They bring their plastic bags and chuck them in the dog bin, so making it overflow. So that's not from my lips, that's what this chap said. I'd suggest we try and do something along the lines of what Christabel has suggested, and write and ask if we can make a contribution. I don't suppose hundreds of pounds, but from the people I know that I've seen walking around the green with dogs, several of them have mentioned it to me, not me mentioning it to them, and they are very much against the proposal of having one bin.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah.
write them a letter. Thank you. 3-year contract for the mowing.
So, you asked me to follow up on whether they would change from just a 1 year to a 3 year, and they've done it, or they're prepared to do it from this summer, providing the fixed price is index linked. They've sent out a revised contract for that.
Was it the same price, Catherine, or was it more? Or?
It's the same
Good.
price, but then to 26 and 27 prices subject to consumer price inflation.
Yeah.
That's very common.
So if you're happy, I'll just sign and return it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, the WhatsApp use policy, which Catherine has drawn up. Has anybody got any comments on that? Guidelines and etiquette.
I think it's a really good idea.
I do too. Anybody got any comments?
I'm embarrassed to say I've somehow missed.
It was in the pack. Catherine sent round. I do think it is important to have something. I'm, through my other work as a school governor, I'm aware of issues that can arise when people think that they are having a private conversation on WhatsApp, when in fact they are using a school group, as it were. So anything that is of a semi-official nature, which a parish council WhatsApp group would be, or a school group would be, is subject to a Freedom of Information Act and is not, therefore not private. And it is really important that people recognise that what they say in such a context could become public. So, can we adopt this?
Will you work under the WhatsApp etiquette bit?
Yeah.
I might have missed this, but says only using it at reasonable times of day as well.
I'm not sure I've seen this.
So
Apologies, I'm not sure I've seen it. I'm looking back through my
Yeah, no, some reason I haven't got it either.
It's in the agenda pack.
It is in the back.
find the email where the agenda was sent out,
Yeah.
and it's attached to the bottom.
It's
It is.
item
And
9.
it's a
zip
zip,
file.
zip file, so you have to scroll through it. So it's basically it's that email there. That's it.
Apologies.
So it's the
Do you want
agenda.
to have a quick look?
Anyway, so I was, yeah, sorry. I was going to say, is it worth to say adding something about times of day?
Yes.
So that we're not
Well,
getting the pings at 11 o'clock at night.
I think the whole way that group should work is for it just to be sort of urgent stuff rather than correspondence. You know, nobody here has got the time really to be monitoring that the whole time. The whole point of it was to say, there is an email which you need to look at by tomorrow, or, can you respond to say whether you're free for a meeting on Thursday? And, to keep everything onto the email group, because, we have had a lot of traffic on it recently in relation to the roadworks, and, I'm busy doing other things during the day. I mean, I'm probably one of the culprits for sending stuff late at night, but probably not the WhatsApp, the email stuff I do, well, fitting it around other commitments. But the whole point of this group was to be a quick alert, so people know to check their emails if there's something, or, there's a particularly urgent matter rather than to have, you know, very lengthy correspondence about, you know, different issues which
Yeah, that all looks right to me. I mean, I think, you know, we did have urgent issues, and it, you know, it was fairly
but there,
lively.
some of it was urgent, but there was a lot of, you know, commentary on, you know, ooh, Hopkins Home's awful kind of thing, which is understandable, but that's not actually an urgent message. That's not saying there's something which you need to look at and respond to quickly. And, you know, if you want to get into the longer correspondence, my suggestion would be to look on the email account at a mutually convenient time.
I think it's important to regard a WhatsApp in this context as the point to please be polite and observe the same level of courtesy as you would do if you were speaking to someone face to face. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I don't think you should ever put anything in writing that you're not happy to stand by as if you were speaking face to face. Absolutely.
Why don't we adopt it and then, you know, it can develop a bit as it goes on.
Absolutely.
If we think there are things we've missed, we can always add to
Yeah,
it at a later stage, can't we?
the policies get reviewed, well, they can be reviewed any time, but they'll be reviewed as a matter of course every annual meeting, really.
Yeah.
And if stuff isn't working, then by all means, I mean, if the whole thing isn't working, and I would say it's optional, isn't it, to join in this. Some people may not want to do it at all, and I don't think they should be, you know, penalised because they don't choose to communicate in this way. But for others, it is a sort of quick and convenient way to just get hold of people.
Okay, can I propose that we adopt this?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So where are we? The asset register, please.
There's no change on the asset register or the risk assessment from last year, except that we've changed the shovels in the grip bins over to plastic scoops.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And the risk assessment?
As for last year's, I haven't adjusted the level of risk on anything, so it'll just need, you know, monitoring, which James has kind of been helping, you know, checking the assets from time to time, and, you know, if anything's falling over or looks as if it's becoming a hazard, alerting the rest of us to it.
Okay, so that's been updated. Lovely. Okay, thank you. Do we have any recommendations for A134 working party to approve?
Well, if we can just clarify that letter.
Yeah, I think we already discussed the letter. I think we were in agreement about the letter, and Catherine would compose something that met the two primary points of reopening Low Green and objecting to the delay of the relief road.
Yeah. Okay.
And that the working party will be meeting with the leaders of West Suffolk Council and Suffolk County Council over the next week.
Okay.
Shall I just put, I'll get that onto headed paper and maybe tinker with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure
It was done quite quickly.
if I circulate that one sort of ahead of the minutes and in as I would normally do.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
that okay?
you're always very prompt. It'd be quite good if we could do it sort of fairly soon.
Tomorrow?
That'd be fantastic. No, that'd be fantastic. You're always regular.
Speedwatch.
Speedwatch. Yes. Well, this really cropped up, I think, because of everything that's gone on in the last month or so. You know, we used to have Speedwatch in the village. We, in effect, I think, from what they're saying to me here, actually weren't doing it often enough. And I think there's quite a gap in how often we're doing it. And they more or less said, we can give the equipment to somebody else who will use it more. But there's no problem with you doing it. Then yes, because the village actually owns a Speedwatch camera. We own one, but it's a bit old. It's not 2016. which is actually a bit irrelevant, as I'll come to. The answer is yes, we can restart the speed watch process, but it is a question of going back to the beginning. So, what do? You form a team, recruit a team of dedicated volunteers. That needs to be at least 6. Right? So I think we're saying 6 to 8 probably is the minimum. John, when we did it last time, how many people were
I
actually
think
active?
we started off with 5-ish, and it dwindled down to 3 or 4, and sometimes a couple of those couldn't come along, so it was a couple of us.
Yeah, so that's really good.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be at least 8 in actual fact. Appoint a coordinator to lead the scheme. Complete the volunteer forms. Speed watch forms. Now these forms are actually quite interesting because they actually are quite detailed. They go into a lot of things about your background, obviously your record, or any offences over ever, any run-ins with the police ever. But it's only 3 forms. So each person has to fill those forms in and send them back to the lady at the administrator. Then we'll do site assessments where you can, some of that we will already done in the past. Attend training, 1 or 2 online and some practical sessions, and then start monitoring and begin the regular sessions. All the costs are borne by the Norfolk Constabulary, who will also supply a new speed gun. So really that's not a problem, none of that is a problem. The question is whether we actually think it's worth getting off the ground again, and what chance we think we have of actually maintaining it this time and keeping it going. Because they're saying at least 12 times a year, you must do it. Obviously once a month, but then you could do it twice 1 month and then not do it. So it's a question of whether we think we can whether we think we'll find enough volunteers, and B, whether we think we can actually keep it going this time and make it worthwhile, and C, whether we think it actually has an effect, I suppose, because nobody gets prosecuted. It's only a letter from the police.
Why don't we just send a WhatsApp message or
Yeah.
information and say, anybody interested in joining in, and to see what the level of interest is. I thought now it's time to ask.
Yeah.
So interested.
That would seem sensible to me. I mean, she's saying it'll take 6 weeks, 2 months minimum to get it up and running once they've got the forms in. So, hopefully by then, all this Hopkins home stuff will have disappeared. But I think that's a good move, is to actually if we get people saying, yes, I'll do it, knowing they've got to do it once a month, quite possibly.
Sounds good.
That's a good idea?
Yeah, great. So you're going to put something on WhatsApp?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And perhaps
If when I sit, I can put it on the email group as well.
Yes. I'll probably get Maz to put it in whenever that's out next.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Lovely, great. Listen.
Only that Charlie is hanging up his litter picker through ill health, really, I'd say. Charlie has done a fantastic job over many years in keeping the village superbly tidy. I think we've been very lucky to have someone like it. Whether we'll ever be able to find a replacement remains to be seen. I guess we could ask if anyone would be interested. My suggestion, perhaps in the short term, is to have a weekend or Saturday morning litter pick, where volunteers, I guess, could go around to different parts of the village and pick up some litter. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, the trouble is all the extra traffic, checking McDonald's wrappers out and things.
Yeah, we need to be careful. Safety stuff.
We got Charlie some equipment, didn't we?
He's got a long stick thing, hasn't he? And,
do we need to acquire it back or?
I'm sure we could get some more.
Would that be a nice thing to put something into the village voice, marking that he's going? And I know he had that award thing, didn't he, recently, but thanking him and appealing for extra help,
I think,
either at a litter pick and or more permanently.
so if someone wants to take it over,
Yeah.
I think he'd be very pleased if somebody did
Yeah.
carry on his work. If not, we could have a group of villagers.
Good way of getting walking.
Okay, car park.
Got the village hall car park, it's really our responsibility, although over the years we've shared any maintenance with the community council. I thought that it might be an idea before they ask us if we'll sort it out, whether we should look into acquiring some three-quarter gravel to refresh the surface. Adrian Baker originally put down about 16 tonnes of stone when the car park was last done. He tells me that we'd probably get away with 8 or 10 tonnes this time, which is about £55 a tonne in tonne bags from someone like Clark's Abortion. So that's 10, 55, £550 roughly. We could possibly look at getting it delivered loose, which might be a little bit cheaper, but we'd have a big pile to distribute, which we might be able to get Adrian to come along with his digger and spread it out, or it might be we'd need a load of village wheelbarrows to do the job with shovels.
Yeah, if it comes on one of those tippers that tips up, that they can drive up and down and drop it off in
a lot of it. We'd have to be mindful of when we're going to do it for weddings and so on, and not to disrupt anything going on at the. But I thought I'd just seek some sort of. I mentioned this to you to see whether or not we could put it on the agenda of another meeting, and we could get the exact costs and approve it, because it's not really fair to ask you to approve it without it being on the agenda in terms of the actual cost.
Exactly, and maybe it needs to be coordinated with the work that's going on with the playground, because
That's possible, yeah.
okay, so let's leave that to the next meeting.
But in principle, there's no issues. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So everybody in favour of the playground as outlined by?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And we can consider any purchase that we might want to make in addition, perhaps at a later date. Is that all right? Excellent. Thank you very much. Storage of meeting recordings.
Quite a brief one, really. I just wanted to run it by everyone. So I think probably the best way of storing the recordings that we now take in the parish council meetings would be to host them on YouTube, because then what we can do with the website is we can either quite simply embed them on there, or just have a link on there, and again links can be sent out in emails, etc. I just think it would be a lot better all round than trying to upload the videos to the website itself, because that can drive the storage right up, which then increases hosting costs and what have you for the website. So if the parish council was happy for it to happen, I can set up a YouTube channel in the name of Hawstead Parish Council, which we could then use for the uploading of those videos.
Do we know what, is there any ownership of that then, or do we have any, what happens if one day YouTube decides to pull the plug, or go now, we're not having you guys anymore on our YouTube channel? What happens to that equipment, or that stuff that we've...
Well, based on the size of YouTube, I think that's probably something that's unlikely to happen. However, we could have backups that were on a hard drive somewhere that are kept for a certain period of time, from a sort of GDPR perspective, in terms of the amount of time we actually hold on to them, and have a policy around how long we want to keep hold of them. But in terms of having something short term that enables us to start sharing those videos with people, because we have people who aren't able to make the meetings, etc., who may want to have a look at the video. So I'm just trying to think of a way that we could get that out to people.
I've got some some kind of electronic thing from John which has got loads of previous meetings.
Oh, it's on a memory stick,
And I have
isn't it?
not been able to, with my limited capabilities, do anything with that. Would you be able to
I can assist with that.
add that in?
Yes, yeah, I can do that.
That's a record of other meetings going back several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long while to upload, I dare say. But yes, that's
Riveting.
Yeah.
So what is the charge for a YouTube channel?
free.
Yeah, I was wondering whether they naturally just, after 3 years.
No. So when something goes up on YouTube, you can keep it there as long as you want. If you want to take it down, you have the control to. But it's generally with websites as a general rule, you wouldn't want to upload all your videos onto there because it just bloats out the website, drives down performance, causes your hosting fees to go up. So it's generally not recommended. So people either use YouTube or Vimeo. Vimeo, for what we're trying to do with it, we don't need anything sort of flashy. So YouTube fits the bill.
Do we want to make a decision as to how long we would keep it up there? Do we want to take it down? Does it have a...
We have a document retention policy, so I would do, maybe when we look at the annual meeting, the policies in that bit, maybe we could add in something if we need to do with both WhatsApp and the, that type of data. I mean, we're not obliged on the website to keep meeting minutes and things there forever. We are obliged to keep the hard copy of that, and that goes off to Suffolk Record, but there's no publicity requirement to hang on to this stuff on our website as a repository forever. It should really just be for current or relatively recent stuff rather than huge archive.
Massive archive. Yeah, I wouldn't say that our parish council website should be this monumental archive. It needs to be sort of most relevant items in there. The other thing that I would probably recommend is potentially, Catherine, if we set up the YouTube account using your email, because councillors come and go, but the clerk role.
That's fine.
Do we want to make a guillotine clause for how long we keep things up there? Or are we happy to have them up there in perpetuity?
Well, in terms on YouTube, you could have them on there in perpetuity, and then we only have them on the website for a limited time.
I'm very proud to be on YouTube. I think I've got 100,000 viewings of when we
Is
did
that the YMCA?
And that was 8 or 9 years ago.
Famous in Vietnam.
We were good, weren't we, John?
No, that's great.
Right, okay, moving on then. Local plan consultation.
I think I circulated what it was. There's been a modification or some sort of change to the local plan, and those were put out for consultation, but I believe it's not really about the content, it's about whether the modification has been sort of legally watertight. So if you've got legal points to make on how the recent changes been taken, I don't think there's anything really listed in there.
Okay. Fine. To approve the bi-monthly financial summary for January and February.
15,000 odd in there, 15,500 to the end of February.
Okay, so it's slowly diminishing. Any comments? No. Right, can we approve this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much. And approve payments to be made, please.
Yep, all good.
to appoint an internal auditor.
So we normally approve SALT.
Yeah.
They've sent us out the letter again. I think the cost of that will be about £200.
Right, something we have to do. Okay. Happy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Adequacy of internal control.
That's just a document which has to be, you know, so councillors are aware of what they do to make sure the clerk isn't running off with money. That gets reviewed every year at this time of year, and James has kindly agreed to look through the bank statements, etc., as we're moving towards year end, at the end of the month, and do the little report which goes with it.
Okay, thank you, James. Good. On to correspondence and playground reports.
Same as they are every that I read them, they're all low risk findings.
A bit of rust again, isn't it?
Yeah, rust and a bit of moss.
Okay. But nothing we have to do.
No,
Local plan decision letter.
we've already touched on.
This is the.
This is just, there's no action required in relation to this correspondence. It's just so you know what kind of correspondence has come into the council where things have required a decision. We've really dealt with it in the agenda.
Yeah, we have. Okay. And similarly, I would think with the A134.
Yeah, you should all have been copied in with all of the A134 correspondence and, you know, be aware of what's been coming in and going out in that regard.
Great, thank you. So to confirm the date of the next meeting, 14th of May. So the annual parish meeting, APM at 7 o'clock, and then the parish council meeting at 7:30, or as near after that as possible. We normally do tea and coffee, don't we, in between? Get that organised. Okay, so I declare the meeting over. Thank you very much.
Thank you.